Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're doing welcome to Returning RAs, a panel where we're going to talk about what it looks like to be a returning RA. And we have a few different panelists here, and we're going to just do an introduction real quick of our two panelists, and then also myself. And so I'm Kelsey Snyder. I'm a full-time hall director here at JMU in the Grace Street Apartments, and my pronouns are she and her. And we'll go over to our two panelists. We can go with Logan first.
Okay. Hi, my name is Logan. I've been an RA on campus for the last 3 years. My pronouns are she and her.
And now with Alex.
Okay. Sorry. I'm Alex. I'm a returning RA in Jennings Hall this year.
Great. All right. So and then we have another, someone else who will be asking questions with us is Emily Hyam. She's an area director here on campus over the Village area, and her pronouns are she, hers. And we're just going to go jump into questions then. So our first question is, how do you not compare years and be open to a new team and understand that every year is different, but every year is good? So whoever wants to go and jump in.
I definitely think I struggled with this a bit. With my second year, but I think that a lot of it comes from just accepting that, like, just because it's different doesn't mean that it's something that is closer or different or something that's necessarily negative. You have to find positives and understand. There might be things that you don't like as much, but of course there are things that are even better. So, for instance, I was on a very large staff my first year as an RA, and then my second year was on a smaller staff. So I had to get a lot more often, but I also felt like I get to know my staff a lot better. So that helped a lot.
And then for me, not comparing like your staffs and like your residents and stuff like that. Sometimes you can go in and you can have really great experience, and then you're like hoping that your next staff that you come into is going to be the exact same, but you have to just take into consideration that like your old staff, like, yes, they're great, but you're going to meet new people. You're going to be working with different people who have like different experiences and different ideas of how to do certain things. And so when you're going into the situations, it's good to just kind of think of everybody like a clear slate and kind of just like, I wouldn't say forget everything about your old like hall, because it's still good to like have those memories. But when you're going in, to kind of just take it all in for what it is. Just try to get to know everyone that's on your staff. Even for me, like I had my friend Allie, and then she came back with me on the same staff my second year being an RA. And for us, it was like it was good because you had a familiar face with you, but also it was like the two of us tried to like spend less time with each other during the first week so that we could get to know like the new people that we're going to be working with and try to figure out the different staff and stuff, and just not lingering on when you're meeting new people or when you're doing the job, because you might have a totally different hall director, or you could have like one or two people on your staff that you know, but like other people you don't. You just don't want to make them feel bad about being new on your staff, so you just want to be open. And also like for like new people, you're gonna be like, this might be your first time like having to be a part of it, so like don't be afraid to like ask questions, because as returners, like we do like to try to give you advice and helpful tips.
So our next question is, what feels the most different from your first year, or what felt the most different from your first year?
I guess for me, what felt different from my first year going into my second year was like your first year, you're nervous because like depending on if you have an upperclassman or first years, like some of the people that you might be talking to might be older than you, or just depending on when people decide to come to college their first year, they might be older than you. So it gets like a little nerve-wracking that you're going to be held responsible, like trying to help make sure that everyone's like following the rules and having a good time. And it also can get a little overwhelming with like knowing like how to make creative like door decks or how to make creative bulletin boards and stuff like that. But just like, you know, like don't worry, like a lot of people think like, oh my goodness, like I have to have, like your first year, you think you have to have everything planned out. You got to know, like, look on Pinterest for all these cute like door decks and all these cute bulletin boards, and you're like stressed out. You want everything to look 100% perfect. But like as the school year goes in, and like what I learned like coming back my second year is like, yes, like they care about those things, but like they don't know that that's not your 100%. You know, like if you mess up, or if one time you take a board from the resource center that they already have out, like they're still gonna love it. It's kind of like the experience that you make with the halls, and like what you make with your residents, and just being present, that actually gives them like a good time and want to like hang out with you.
I think that this, the thing that can feel the most different from first year to second is very building dependent sometimes. Like, because most of the time you aren't going to end up in the same building you were in your first year. So I think that it's definitely a bit of an adjustment at first, because every staff is different, every HD is different. So there might be things that your staff will do differently. So you just got to kind of be flexible at first to see how your hall director wants to run the staff and how it functions, just because it can be very different from building to building. But at the same time, as a returning RA, sometimes the hall director will look to you to see what works for you on your previous staff to like try and help out with the transition and maybe make your own staff a little better or something. So I think it's just taking the experience, but also recognizing that things are different and being flexible with that.
Great, thank you. Kind of leads into my next question is, what is your advice for those changing communities? So maybe you're going from a first year to upper class, or maybe hall style to suite, just like any kind of thing like that, changing communities.
For me, it was kind of like the same advice like at the beginning, like just think of your residents as new people. So first years, like just knowing like who are you getting to meet, because like first years, like they're brand new, so they're gonna want to know a lot of like the newer things about where to eat on campus and like places to like go to study and stuff like that. But like also like not making the mistake that just because you have upperclassmen that they're not gonna need your help. Because I went from working with first years, like my first 2 years as an RA, to like this past year working with upperclassmen. And a lot of times, like people are like, oh, upperclassmen don't need your help. Like they got everything figured out. But I've actually had a lot of like during like upperclassmen, we had to do like these conferences, and we got to know them, and we got to like hear like their journey of like how they feel about campus. And a lot of times during those moments are where you get to introduce yourself to them, and they get to introduce themselves to you. And during those times are like where you get to form that connection, so that like they feel comfortable with you. Whereas like first years, like they're more likely to come to you because they do like need help figuring out different organizations to go to and different things to join. And it's a little harder when you're a first year to like kind of get in the groove of being away from home. But just like recognizing and meeting your residents and kind of like seeing what needs to be met, and then just going from there.
I think that you definitely just need to make sure that you pick for the residents, no matter what hall you're in. There are definitely advantages also where you see going from bathroom or just hang out in the lounges, like suite style or like village. Sometimes it's a little harder to like connect with them, just because there are additional literal doors between you and the residents. So I think you just gotta kind of try to meet them where they are. So like in Christian apartments, how there are multiple. There's the living room and the bedrooms. Like you need to try to knock on doors, especially those first couple weeks, to just try and like see your resident, put them into a face for everyone. Just because if you see a resident and you say hi so and so, and you know their name, then that's already put on a good path to forming a good relationship with them. And especially that's important in the first year halls just as much as in upperclassmen halls.
So our next question, and I think this is probably one that Kelsey and Justin and I can jump in on as well. But what is your advice for those going into their second year?
Some advice going into your second year, just kind of think of it as like taking some of like the things that you learned from last time and using them to help you like do better. Like if there was something that you thought that maybe you wanted to change, like this is your chance. Like no one knows that like if you did something wrong last time, or like if you weren't experienced in some things, just to use those old experiences and to help you like to be better, and also just to have fun. Like a lot of times like a lot you feel like, oh, like I've already done everything. Like I've done training before. I've sat through like these meetings. Like it can get boring and repetitive, but sometimes like they change up things. You learn new things. You learn new techniques. You can also take the time to like learn your staff and like to just like have fun and just meet your like residents. And I think to just like we're all saying like to be open minded about the whole process, just because you never know what you're gonna learn. Just because like you're a returner doesn't mean like I've learned stuff from staffs that have been first time RAs and they've learned stuff from me. So it's like you're always like with new people coming in. The reason why I love that you can't be on a staff with all returners is because people who are coming in, they have a fresh set of eyes. So like they're going to be able to give you some insight and some things that maybe you miss. So just like take it everything in and just like really just have listen to what people have to say and like new experiences and like just get to know each other and then just have a fun year.
I would definitely echo what Logan just said. I think that it's very important to just like be flexible and recognize that it's not going to be the exact same as the previous year. So just knowing that like there are going to be differences in how things are done and the way your staff works together. But like being open to those things and not really trying to force the old ways from your previous year onto the second year, just because sometimes what works for one staff won't work for another. So you kind of just have to be open to like letting things happen as they will, and definitely just make sure that you check on those first year RAs, like just to make sure they're doing okay, and if there's anything they need help with, because I know a lot of times they won't always come to you with questions if they have them, because some people feel like they can do things without help. So just kind of like reaching out where you feel like you can, but also not pushing too much for sure.
I think, yeah, I could probably answer some of this. I would say that I think I kind of already said in one of my questions, the first question I talk about that every year is different, but every year is good. Because I, especially where I went to school, people very stereotyped residence halls of like, these kind of people live here, these people live here. And so I think I tried my best to be like, well, this year was really good because of like this, this, and this. But then I was in a different hall the next year or whatever. And I was like, well, this year is like good too, but it's different. And it's like, different's not bad. It's just different. And so I think just like keeping that in mind. And I know it can be hard because if you had a really an amazing experience with your one staff, you're like, well, it can't compare. It's not going to get better, but like it could, and it could be just different and like better in a new way. And so I think just keeping that in mind, and that you can learn, like Logan said, like you can learn from new people just as much as like learning from a returner, them learning from you. So just keeping an open mind to that, and just, yeah, I don't know, especially this year, keeping in mind that like everyone's going to be learning things newly this year, especially too. So just keeping an open mind especially will be really important, and being flexible.
For me, I would say, well, first of all, if you're going into your second year as an RA, you didn't finish the whole first year on campus. And so you're going to get to a certain point next year where you're going to be like, wait, I haven't done this before, you know, like you went for spring break and y'all didn't come back. And so you're going to get to that point next year and you're going to be like, okay, now I've made it a full year as an RA. But I think going into this year, make sure that you're not just saying like, I'm going to do exactly the job that I did last year, because the job's going to be different. Even if you're returning to the same hall, even if you pick the same room, your building is going to be different in terms of the staff makeup and the residents. And so don't fall into like, well, I was really good at this and like I just kind of skated by on that. And so don't like set yourself some goals, and do better than you did last year. Like don't just be like, it was a cool job, so I'm gonna just do that again. That's something I do as a professional. Like I see something new every year. Certainly this year that was easy to see new things. But every year I'm challenging myself to be like, what can I do better this year? And there's certain parts of the job certainly that are going to be our favorite, and there's parts of the jobs that we're like, okay, like I do that, but I don't love doing it. So challenge yourself to be better at that thing that you're like find ways to make that part of your job like even better.
Justin, do you have any advice you want to share? It's okay if you don't. Just wanted to ask.
I'm not a big advice giver, but I think a lot of what was talked about was like being okay with difference. This year as a whole is going to be different, but then again, if you're going to a different community, you might have a different type of hall director. You maybe had a full-time last year and you've got an undergrad this year. Recognizing that those two are going to work and function very differently. I think it was Alex who said, like, that's okay. It's okay to be like, hey, like, last year my hall director did this and it worked out really well, but then being okay if your hall director this year doesn't do it that way because they're a different person. So I think it's okay to share some of that, like, feedback and what has worked well, but also recognize and give your hall director this year a chance to do those things that work really well that you want to tell your hall director next year did really well. So I think that's something that when I was a grad hall director, I really struggled with. I had some returners that wanted me to be the hall director from the year before, and I was not. So I think being okay with that difference and realizing that difference is okay.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, Brenda, do you have any questions? It's okay if you don't. I just wanted to ask since you're here.
I don't think so. You're kind of hitting lots of talking points.
Yeah. Logan or Alex, do you guys have anything else you thought of that you want to share that you haven't gotten to share about what it's like to be a returning RA, or just like the RA life in general?
I think that, especially going into the year that we're going into, I think it's definitely going to be important to be patient with yourself, because it's going to be a much different job this year with all the changes around campus. So there might be things that we have to do that we've never done before as RAs. So I think just kind of go easy on yourself. Like, you try something, it doesn't work with the program, and I mentioned it's going to look much different this year than it did last year. So if you try like the virtual program and it doesn't work out well the first time, then I think just like letting yourself learn from it and just kind of like taking the time to look at how it works and not being overly critical on yourself.
Going off of what like Alex said, like obviously like I guess this is going to be an adjustment period for everyone involved. Like, even though as returners, you've done some, like people who've like third-year returners, like obviously they've done this a few times, but even the returners that are going to be on your staff, is going to be a whole different from them. And just taking the patience to learn the new policies and be able to help. But I think also like one of the biggest things is to just have fun. Like, I know a lot of like, we're putting a lot of pressure to like, perform correctly and that we have to help others. But I think to just have fun with your staff, like have fun and just enjoy the process. Like, yeah, it might be a little stressful in the beginning when you're trying to learn all these policies and how to do your job right and like all this pressure. But like everyone makes mistakes. Like, you're going to make a mistake. I think that going into it, just knowing that like you're not going to do everything 100% perfectly is probably one of the best things, because it's like we're all learning new things. We're all going to learn new policies and new procedures, and so just knowing that like you're not going to be perfect, and it's okay that like you're not perfect. Like, no one's expecting you to be going into this job to, even before with everything happening, no one expected us to be like 100% like perfect and know how to do our jobs. Like, you're always going to be growing, and I feel like if you go in thinking that like I have to be perfect, that you're actually going to be worse off, because you're not going to be able to be open to listening to what new is changing and other people's ideas, and like being able to like flop off of like ideas with other people, and like getting to know people and enjoy the experience. And I think that another thing is to just like take time for yourself. Like, a lot of the jobs, especially coming up with the new changes, there's going to be a lot of stuff dumped on you, but also being able to say like, you know, I need self-care. I need to take care of myself, because I know when I first started, and even now, just the person I am, I always want to help people. And it could be like sometimes hard for me to see that like, hey, like I need personal time too. Like, I need to take time for myself. So like, never being afraid to like talk to your bosses, talk to your coworkers and say, hey, like I'm struggling a little bit here or there, or like I think I need to take some self-care, and just being willing to like rely on your team, because that's what they're for.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. So I think if there's no other questions, we'll wrap this up. So thank you to our panelists. Appreciate your wisdom and your advice and just the help that you're going to give to returning RAs. Thank you.